You know that feeling when you're talking to someone, and maybe the words are technically right, but you just sense this disconnect.
Mm-hmm. Like something's not quite landing.
Exactly. Maybe it's a cultural difference, creating this sort of gap you can't really put your finger on.
Yeah.
That's the kind of knotty problem we're digging into today.
Yeah.
How do we actually bridge those communication divides, especially when language and culture aren't quite, aligned?
It's a really fascinating area. And we've actually got a great case study to explore today that offers some, pretty solid clues on how to get it right.
Perfect. We're doing a deep dive into a project, a collaboration between University College London's Institute of Archaeology and My Language Hub.
Right, MLH. They're a language services provider. And we've got some details directly from MLH about how this all worked.
So the mission for this deep dive really is to pull out the key insights. How did UCL and MLH actually manage to work together effectively?
How did they navigate those linguistic hurdles and the cultural ones too in this big international research project?
And the idea is that this isn't just, an academic story. The lessons here could apply in a lot of different fields.
Absolutely. Very practical understanding.
Okay, so let's set the scene. This partnership between UCL and MLH, it wasn't brand new, right?
No, the source mentions a long-standing relationship.
Yeah.
MLH has been providing UCL with things like transcription, translation, interpreting, the whole range.
Got it. But this specific deep dive is focusing on a recent project, one involving the Institute of Archaeology.
Yeah, and the challenge they faced was pretty specific and quite demanding. They were starting a multi-month collaboration.
Multi-month, okay.
Yeah, with research groups based in Korea. So a pretty significant undertaking.
Right, not just a one-off meeting then. This needed sustained communication.
Exactly. And that meant meeting a whole range of language support.
Like what specifically?
Well, remote simultaneous interpreting. For starters, they had online workshops using Zoom.
Wow, okay. RSI for complex academic discussions. That sounds tricky.
It is. And then they needed translation of, pretty dense academic material.
From English to Korean, presumably.
Mm-hmm. And then the culmination was a conference in London. So they needed in-person simultaneous interpreting there too.
So online, written materials, and face-to-face, covering all bases. But it wasn't just about the words, was it?
That's the crucial point. The UCL team apparently had real concerns about understanding, about communicating effectively because of the potential cultural differences.
Right. So it's not just, can you translate this sentence? It's, can we actually understand each other's context and meaning?
Precisely. It's a whole different ballgame than just linguistic accuracy.
So how did MLH approach that? What was their solution?
Well, this is where it gets interesting. They didn't just, assign any available Korean interpreter.
Okay.
They specifically deployed experienced, qualified interpreters who specialized in academic discourse.
Specialization. That makes sense.
It's key, isn't it? Interpreting, say, a business meeting is very different from a deep academic debate with specific terminology and, different ways of structuring arguments.
Absolutely. You need someone who gets the nuances, the jargon, the whole academic culture in both languages.
Exactly. And their role wasn't just passive translation. The sources say they were actively facilitating communication during those Zoom workshops.
So making sure the flow worked, people weren't getting lost.
Yeah, ensuring real understanding, plus providing culturally sensitive translations of the materials.
Which, as you said, is way more than just word for word.
Right, and then handling the high-pressure job of simultaneous interpreting live at the London conference. Very professional delivery was needed there.
And it sounds like they were consciously trying to bridge that cultural gap, too.
Very much so.
Yeah.
The material emphasizes this. They weren't just conduits for words. They were offering context, helping people understand the why behind certain phrasings or approaches.
Like cultural guides, almost.
In a way, yes. Helping navigate those subtle differences that could easily trip things up if you're not aware of them. Misunderstandings, misinterpretations of findings.
Okay, so let's just recap the specific services clearly. There was RSI.
Remote simultaneous interpreting, English and Korean for 3 Zoom workshops.
Okay. And the translation.
Academic materials, English into Korean. Accuracy and nuance would have been absolutely critical there.
You need subject matter understanding for that too, I imagine.
Definitely. You can't just be a good linguist. You need to grasp the concepts.
And then the third piece was the in-person interpreting.
Simultaneous, English and Korean, at the final conference in London. Real-time, high stakes.
And there was a specific person managing all this from MLH's side?
Yeah, Karina, the project manager. The source notes she maintained really close communication with UCL.
That dedicated contact point probably makes a big difference on complex projects.
I think so. Just ensuring everything runs smoothly, addressing issues quickly, it builds confidence.
So what were the results? Did it all work out?
It sounds like it. Very much so. The project was described as a resounding success,
Okay.
leading to successful events and, importantly, highly satisfied clients. Pretty unambiguous feedback.
That's great. Do we have any direct quotes from UCL?
We do. There's one from a research fellow at the Institute of Archaeology. They said, "Both interpreters have been incredibly kind, professional, and have offered an excellent service."
Nice. Professionalism and kindness. Good combo.
Yeah, and they added, "Karina has also been fabulous and has listened to and accommodated all our requests."
So that project management aspect really shone through for them. The personal touch matters.
It seems so. There's another testimonial, too, this one related to a project called Inclusive Digital Innovation at UCL.
Okay, what did they say?
They said, "My language hub has supported us with a live simultaneous interpretation and translation throughout our project." And here's the key part again. The project required highly specific interpretation to facilitate academic discussion between UK-based research groups and groups based in the Republic of Korea.
That phrase, again, highly specific interpretation, it really highlights the need for that niche expertise.
Exactly. It's not generic interpreting. And they also added that everyone at my language hub has been professional, kind, supportive, and they have gone above and beyond to accommodate our often difficult requests.
Often difficult requests.
Okay.
That speaks volumes, doesn't it?
It really does. It suggests a level of flexibility and commitment beyond just, ticking the boxes on a contract. They were invested.
Yeah, it paints a picture of MLH as more than just a vendor, like a genuine partner in making the communication actually work effectively across cultures.
And that principle, that need for culturally nuanced language support, it applies way beyond academia, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The source material actually gives a little nod to that, mentioning a related post about bridging jurisdictions in legal cases.
Okay. Legal settings. Talk about high stakes for getting language and nuance exactly right.
Precisely. Imagine the consequences of a misunderstanding there.
Yeah.
It just underscores how crucial these services are in so many critical fields.
Yeah, definitely. International business, healthcare with diverse patients, the list goes on. Anywhere cultures and languages intersect. Useful info if this sparks something for listeners.
And their tagline is quite fitting, isn't it? Breaking barriers, building connections.
Yeah, that sums up what we've been talking about pretty well. It's not just about the words.
It's about enabling that real understanding, those connections.
Okay, so as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, what's the main takeaway for listeners?
I think it really boils down to this. Successful international work, whether it's research or business or anything else, isn't just about linguistic translation. You absolutely need that cultural understanding, that cultural intelligence piece.
Right. It's two sides of the same coin.
Exactly. And this UCL MLH partnership is just a really clear, practical example of how that works in action. How a thoughtful approach to both language and culture leads to, success.
It's a strong reminder that just speaking the same language on the surface doesn't always mean effective communication is happening underneath. So maybe a final thought for everyone listening to chew on. Our world is obviously getting more and more interconnected, right?
Yeah, increasingly so.
So thinking about your own field, your own area of interest, what are some of the maybe less obvious, the more subtle cultural nuances that could actually have a big impact on communication? Things beyond just the dictionary definitions of words?
Like unspoken rules, communication styles, different assumptions.
Exactly. What are those hidden factors at play? It's definitely something worth giving some real thought to.